Lorna Gordon, well, to talk with me now about that ruling and also the wider Brexit situation is the SNP MP Joanna Cherry. Welcome.
Hello.
So we'll start on that then.
Yeah.
What impact will that have?
Well, I think it's important to appreciate, and I was in court for the delivery of the judgment this morning, it's important to appreciate that the Supreme Court held that when the Scottish Parliament passed that legislation, it was wholly within its constitutional competence apart from one section. Effectively, what the British government did was challenge the Scottish bill and then change the rules of the game by legislating to take powers away from the Scottish Parliament in the meantime. So effectively, they changed the rules halfway through and they retrospectively changed the law to make parts of that bill unlawful. So we're now in a situation where the Scottish Parliament passes legislation wholly within its competence apart from one section, the British government challenges it, and then changes the law in the House of Lords without the consent of Scottish MPs and without the consent of the Scottish Parliament to take powers away from the Scottish Parliament. Is that really the most powerful devolved parliament in the world? I don't think so.
What impact will it have though? Because I mean, it's obviously, well, we are where we are, it has happened.
The whole purpose of this legislation was to prepare devolved laws for Brexit. And my colleagues in the Scottish Government, together with their lawyers, are now going to have to sit down very carefully and look at the parts of the bill that survive and look at how they take things forward. But what's really important for viewers to understand is that when this bill was passed, it was within the constitutional power of the Parliament. The British Parliament changed the law retrospectively. At the time, there was a great deal of controversy in Scotland because the presiding officer, he is the Speaker of the Scottish Parliament, he took the view that the bill wasn't lawful. Scotland's chief law officer, the Lord Advocate, said the bill was lawful, and the Lord Advocate has been vindicated, which the Scottish Government, my colleagues in the Scottish Government, are absolutely delighted about, although any of us who know Scotland's Lord Advocate well would not be surprised that he was right in any matter of complex law.
Let's move on to other complex matters. What happens here now? Talk of Theresa May potentially reaching out. She said yesterday when it was clear that she had won the vote in her confidence, the confidence vote in her within her own party, that it's time to unite.
Well, she was talking about uniting.
What could she do?
She was talking about uniting her own party, I think, rather than reaching out to
unite
the
country
SNP
as well. And we are a divided country.
Well, we're for the United Kingdom consists of more than one country: Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. It's always important to remember that Scotland and Northern Ireland voted to remain, and
but
that ought to be taken into account.
Could she reach out to the SNP in a way that would be constructive?
From the very beginning, my colleagues in the Scottish Government have proposed compromises to the British Government, which have been rejected out of hand. Not just a compromise for Scotland, but a compromise to try and bring the whole of the UK together in the Brexit process. Those compromises have been rejected. And the situation in which Theresa May now finds herself is that she's reached an agreement with the European Union, but she can't sell that agreement to her own party. And the biggest problem, there are many problems, but the biggest problem for Theresa May is the backstop. And she wants to change the agreement on that, but the EU have been crystal clear that the agreement itself and the backstop.
But is there anything that she could do to work constructively with you, or is basically, as far as you're concerned, would you like there to be a confidence vote in the government?
Well, we would like there to be a confidence vote. The only thing she could do to work constructively with us is to hold a people's vote, putting to the country the question of whether they should accept her deal or stay in the European Union, as has been established as possible after the Court of Justice decision, which I was involved in earlier this week. I think there should be a vote of no confidence in the government. A third of our own party, more than a third of our own parliamentary party, don't have confidence in her. So how can the opposition say they have confidence in her? It's Labour's responsibility as the official opposition to bring this motion of no confidence forward, because the reality is a government needs to be formed that can get the country out of the mess that Tory infighting has got the country into.
If I can Joanna Cherry is still with me, so we'll have to see what she comes back with. It is the backstop that is the main issue.
She says the backstop's the main issue.
Okay.
That may be the main issue for the Conservative Party, but the main issue for the nations of these islands is whether or not her deal is a good deal. And it's not a good deal because even on her own government's analysis, this deal will damage jobs, will destroy jobs and damage living standards across the United Kingdom.
So anything short of Remain, you will not you will not back?
I think the choice should be put back to the people. At the time of the last referendum, all sorts of promises were made which have not been delivered upon. This is the only deal on the table. She's afraid to put it in front of Parliament because she thinks she can't get a majority for it in Parliament. She should put it to the people so the people can choose between this deal or staying in the EU.
Very briefly, the power is still in her hands, isn't it, to decide whether there's going to be a referendum? And in terms of a confidence vote in the government, the DUP, if the DUP still support the government,
let's see what the DUP do when they realise that what they want on the backstop is impossible. And I reiterate the fact the Prime Minister, more than a third of her party didn't have confidence in her. She's on the television saying that she won't fight the next general election. She's a fatally wounded Prime Minister, but it's not just about her, it's not just about the individual, it's about the whole government. The government's in a state of chaos. There are rumours that significant cabinet ministers voted against her last night. Of course, we don't know because it was a secret ballot. And I would reiterate is what the country needs is a government that will get us out of the mess that the Tory infighting has got us into.
Joanna Cherry, thank you very much.